two-strike pitch. Here comes the windup. A swing and a miss, and that's it. Strike three. That's it. They won it in 7. The crowd is going wild. The dugout is empty, and that is your ball game.
Hutch came about because of two brothers, Dr. William Hutchison, a local surgeon, and Fred Hutchinson, one of the biggest Seattle sports heroes ever.
You know, he was a major league pitcher and then became a manager and was actually the manager of the year twice.
I think it's a spirit of competition that there are 16 major league teams, and when you get an opportunity to compete against them, you like to do it.
As I think it was Stan Musial said, if you couldn't play for Fred, you couldn't play for anyone.
He later managed the Rainiers and the big league Tigers, St. Louis Cardinals, and Cincinnati Reds.
Tragically, over the holidays in 1963, Dr. Bill diagnosed his brother Fred with lung cancer.
Somebody says you have a malignancy and it's cancer, and you just don't know what to think.
Bill Hutchinson was a surgeon, and so he was seeing cancer a lot. He realized what an incredibly difficult problem it was even before his brother developed it. But then seeing it in his brother, I think, was the final straw.
Fred Hutchinson's inspiration didn't end on the field. Dr. Bill Hutchinson was driven to build a compassionate legacy for his beloved brother.
He really wanted to create a center that focused specifically on cancer. There really weren't many of those, and certainly nothing like that in the western half of the United States.
When the Hutch opened its doors, Dr. E. Donald Thomas had the same determination and drive that Fred had shown.
Late 1950s, there were a number of workers who started in bone marrow transplantation. By the 1960s, virtually all of them had dropped out and said this is impossible.
Dr. Thomas and his team were in the early stages of a pioneering treatment for blood cancers.
There was this idea, this possible idea of marrow transplantation that Don Thomas was experimenting with. And so he built this village of individuals who had expertise. And it wasn't, by the way, just the doctors and the nurses. There was also the pharmacists, there were the dietitians, there were the social workers.
It was like a startup, yeah, and it was pretty rough and tumble. I mean, the discussions, for instance, regarding new treatment protocols were oftentimes heated, and it was pretty good. It's much tamer now.
We've asked the hard questions that nobody else would even think to ask. And we needed to do that as a team because no one person would have an answer.
That was one of the great things about Don. All these things that we were doing around him, he wanted to understand.
We were learning constantly about the ins and outs of infection and graft versus host disease. At that time, we were at a very rudimentary stage of our understanding. You know, as human beings, we're always asking why. And that is especially true in science and medicine.
Well, this program is a logical extension of a lot of scientific knowledge that's been worked out in many different laboratories by many different people. And I must admit, though, that many patients, they come here as sort of the last resort.
It attracts the type of person that has the same level of commitment and determination that Don Thomas had.
We had leukemia patients who came to us themselves because their local doctors would say, you don't want to do that. You're just going to go there and die.
I mean, the early years were marred by viral infections.
You know, skin graft versus host disease was a big problem. You know, how to keep patients' skin intact and help the itching and support them through the loss of so much fluid and the pain that caused.
These were kids and young adults. And so it was heartbreaking.
When we came to the realization that somebody wasn't going to make it through, we really tried to support one another. And losses were hard for all of us.
The courage of those early patients to go through what they had to go through.
It was just worth hanging on and doing our best, giving the best care we possibly could, and we gradually started making some progress.
And so Don showed that you could cure leukemia with marrow transplantation. Watching Don and his team, with their own hands, create a therapy that was able to cure previously incurable patients, that was the magic of the place.
I think his commitment was a superpower. And he was very grateful for the work that his team did, but also every hour, every day work that the nurses did.
He called the nurses his secret weapons.
Dr. Donald Thomas, I wish to congratulate you for your outstanding achievements and ask you to receive the Nobel Prize.
When Don won the Nobel Prize, you'd say, wow, that's an amazing contribution. And it is. But frankly, I think that's the smallest part of it.
The progress that we have seen in the last 20 years, I think, is nothing like what we will see in the next 20 years.
Suddenly we could focus on using the immune system and how we can manipulate the immune system. And so you go from an observation to applying it in new and different ways.
Hutch has gone from strength to strength to strength.
I think that's part of the character of the Hutch, that we've done it in the past, and we know we can do it again.